Let's talk to somebody who was once in charge of an awful lot of things that were going on. Jonathan Haslam, former Director of Communications at Number 10 under John Major, joins us now. Good morning to you, Jonathan.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I must just ask you about this petition calling for another general election. It's now, I mean, it's moving so fast. It started on Thursday. A lot of petitions struggle to hit 10,000, 5,000. They get 100,000, they get a vote in Parliament, well, a debate in Parliament at least. It's now just 11,000 off the 2 million mark. It was only started last Thursday. What does that tell you? And what would you be doing if you were Director of Communications at Number 10 right now, seeing that petition?
Well, first of all, I've just got to say that I think the only surprising thing about this is that we've not hit 2 million already, and I expect it to go far higher with the performance of the government. What do you do in impossible circumstances? You have to get on with what you believe in and then explain it to the House and to the cows come home and try to find some positives. And unfortunately, they're not finding any positives at all at the moment.
They really, really are. Like, you've been in the spin business. I mean, although the Director of Communications, we know, that job actually involves, big part of sort of strategic thinking in government as well. Many, like Alistair Campbell's onwards, have played a crucial role in advising and steering government ideas. But I mean, are you shocked by how bad they are?
I'm extremely surprised. Excuse me. I'm extremely surprised by it, Julia, because the job of the Director of Comms and all of the media office in Downing Street is to think ahead 2, 3, 4 steps. If this happens, so what? What next? And they seem to be stumbling from one crisis to another. And it's very easy. I mean, particularly in my time in government with John Major, after nearly 18 years, then there's a weariness that sets in. There's a bunker mentality. Now, what we're seeing at the moment is a bit of a bunker mentality after 5 months, which is distressing.
It is quite something. The reality is, though, look, a petition is not going to lead to a general election, but 2 million people isn't just a few awkward people on the internet, is it?
No, it's more than that. It's a signal that actually you really need to sit down and think about what you're seeing in the papers, what you're seeing on the television screens, and the messages coming out from your backbenchers and everybody else, and some sort of rationale, if you can find it, for what you've done. And I think a bit of mea culpa wouldn't come amiss for a lot of people, because the cowardly way actually both parties dealt with the economy prior to the election was just shocking. I mean, we're not stupid people in this country, and yet we have been treated in that way. Yeah. And actually, if you're into the blame game, and let's face it, Labour's been blaming everything under the sun, it had the opportunity before the election to say, the Office of Budget Responsibility has said that the government's plans are fiction. Yeah. Paul Johnson, who is closest to God on economics in the country, has said none of this makes sense. Yeah. If you want these services, the fee has to go up. That's your taxes. Yeah. Be honest with us, spread the load. Don't make a complete and utter holics of it by fiddling around the margins. Just say, I'm sorry, if you want all this and we got to fix it, it's going to be...
You're going to have to pay more. Yeah, again, that's the thing, the honesty. But again, a lot of voters are willing to be lied to. That's the truth as well. We should hold ourselves to account as well. Let me ask you about this benefits clampdown that we're told is going to be announced tomorrow by Liz Kendall, the Work and Pensions Secretary. She was out and about doing these Sunday morning TV interviews. I mean, she's very patronising. She sort of talks very slowly, as if she's saying something incredibly clever, whilst absolutely never answering the question. Have you worked out yet what the carrot and the stick is and what the sanctions would be for those young people or those people who are not working, particularly who are currently claiming some sort of incapacity, disability benefit because of, they say, sickness benefit, their stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, and actually if they don't take work, if they're able-bodied, what should happen to them? Have you been able to work out what the sanction is? Because she won't seem to say, will she?
No, just saying that there will be benefit cuts. There will be something that's going on.
Yeah, if you take £2 off, people go, fair enough. Yeah, I'll buy one less Coke.
I would like to know why it is that it's only the 18 to 21-year-olds that are mentioned so far in the press, because there is a big issue here. I have a neighbour who runs his own small business. He finds it difficult to get staff. Yeah. He goes to the job centre. He's advised that people are going to come to see him. They've been referred. They don't turn up. Yep. So where's the checkup on that? Where is the person in the benefit office saying, did they actually turn up to talk to you? And if the answer is no, that's one strike against you. And
how many strikes? I mean, I'm thinking a couple. I mean, how many would you get in the workplace? That also, you're not working. You can get anywhere.
You can, absolutely. And you can also make sure that you're polite enough to the person who's going to speak to you to turn up. It's about another attitude. We've heard about benefit crackdowns before. Both stripes of government have done it. It's really just changed. I'd look very hard also at those options, as you just mentioned, to be able to go onto sickness benefit, where you can get thousands of pounds more than you can in unemployment benefit.
And it's basically for life. And again, we see no other wealthy country post-lockdown has seen this rise. We're told, oh, it's post-lockdown, it's post-COVID, it's blah, blah, blah. No other country has seen this. This is purely the availability of the benefits.
I think there's a huge amount of that, Julia. And I'm not unsympathetic to people who've got mental health problems and physical. But I do want them to actually take a little bit of control of their own lives when they can and be helped to do it and to get back into something that's really good for you, which is making a contribution. It can be work, it can be through a carer, but not sitting on your backside watching daytime TV.
But also, it's not just that. I don't want to pay for you. I just don't want to pay for you. I'd rather my taxes paid for people who really needed the money. Let me ask you also just briefly about the crime issue. We just talked about, a man and a 8-year-old girl seriously injured by gunshots in West London. These are just 10 a penny, these stories now, tragically. But the government says they really, really, really want to crack down on spiking of women's drinks to make the streets safe for women and girls. They said they're going to make it a specific criminal offence to spike a drink, even though it's actually been a criminal offence to spike someone's drink for, I think, 150 plus years. I mean, it's a really ancient Victorian law. I don't even understand why on earth they would think they needed to do that. But at the same time, we've got a guidance to the Home Office about having more common sense when it comes to the recording of non-crime hate incidents. But at the same time, we understand that Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, thinks that the police should record more non-crime hate incidents. But given that they barely tackle actual crime incidents, what do you make of this?
Well, this is the thing that really upsets people out on the streets, and it upsets me greatly, because when we're looking at gun crime, the stats will tell us that it's not as prevalent as we think, and that we see it when it happens because it is a shock. Yeah. But actually, we also find that the National Crime Agency and the police will probably know who the perpetrators are, not necessarily the individuals, but the gangs that are involved and the incidents that are involved. And you need far greater concentration on that. There is a part to play for these non-crime hate incidents to be recorded, because they do give you a trend, but they require an awful lot of common sense about when you're going to knock on someone's door and ask them a question about a tweet. They're two different things entirely. And I know it's a hoary old cliche, Julia, but I like to see bobbies on the beat.
I know, we're so old-fashioned, but it does seem to work. I mean, we can't all be wrong about this, can we? Just one final question. Assisted dying, that bill, that private member's bill from Leadbeater, that is actually coming to the Commons. 5 hours debate, then a vote on Friday. A lot of MPs want to speak more than 100. I mean, you're looking at people having, a couple of minutes max to actually have their say. That's not really enough to discuss such an important subject. We've had the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, basically saying, look, it's a woman who have to, in a way, oversee this if it became law, saying that the government, the state, shouldn't be offering death as a service. What do you think the chances are that this law will go through?
I think it's 60-40 against. And I'm worried about words I hear from government saying that actually if it doesn't go through as a private member's bill, it can mess up the whole of the government legislation programme. That's not the right way to look at it. This is hugely important. I don't think we're having sufficient of a debate. I welcome the debate. I'm open-minded about it. I do take very seriously those issues of slippery slope. Look at the Canadian experience, for example, which is really worrying. And there is a moral issue as well. We're talking about this one being narrowly drawn and people saying it's only for the terminally ill with 6 months to live. Well, what's the argument against someone who's in enormous pain? Yeah. And not all palliative care can work. And that's the question where you set it up. And people have said rightly, well, the Abortion Act went through under David Steele many, many years ago as a private member's bill. I think it is in a different particular place. And this one has so many ramifications for the resources, for the NHS, for the judiciary, for us. And when people say to you, as I read Matthew Syed this weekend in the Sunday Times, who I hugely respect, there's no evidence of coercion. good coercion doesn't leave evidence.
No, that's the thing. I mean, again, I think it's a bit weirdly the bill doesn't go far enough and goes too far, but in different areas. It's a complicated business, and maybe a private member's bill isn't the right way of doing this, but then the governments have refused to bring it forward when we know there's public support for it. It's going to be very interesting to watch that debate play out throughout the week, I think. Jonathan Haslam, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us.